Welcome to the Crafty Mini. So in this one I'm going to be having a bit of fun. This is one of those sort of side projects like I've done the last few weeks that I don't normally record or do anything with, but I've decided to crack on with this. This is a really cool miniature. This is one from my collection which I'll be putting on display at some point. Big fan of the Joker as a villain. I love Batman, have done since I was a kid. Right back from the days of the Batman 1989 film and Jack Nicholson portraying the Joker. And I found this bust and I think it was like £6, which is not bad at all for the size of it. And I thought I'd have a bit of fun. So to start with, the miniature's been based in olive brown by Vallejo. And then what I've done, you can see there on the wet palette, I've got some olive brown, I'm mixing it in with the purple. And I'm actually using this as almost like a base colour. And I'll add more purple into that mix as we go on with the higher and higher highlights, just so you get a nice variation of depth of colour in there as well. But just taking my time, going around picking out all the details, try not to mess anything up or go over the edges. If you do, it's an easy fix, bit of olive brown back over and things. But yeah, really simple paint job this one. And you can see here now I'm adding more purple into that colour, and we're going to do that first initial highlight. So I won't go over absolutely every area on the miniature, only where the light hits, and I'll keep some of the original blend of purple and olive brown in the deepest recesses. I'm just going to build this up now, so you just simple layering, but again on the scale of a miniature or a bust, I think you appreciate it a bit more and you realise where you've got to get those light volumes in. And I'd always recommend someone tries painting a larger scale miniature or bust. If for nothing else, just to practice, because for me it really helped my painting, and it came on leaps and bounds as I was practicing throughout lockdown. So at this point, this is the second highlight layer, and this is where it really starts to become apparent. So there's little to no of the olive brown in there now. I've added a bit more of the purple, and just mixing it in, and this is where it'll start to make the colour pop. When you first put it on, it looks really dramatic, like it's too much, but that's because the paint needs to dry as well. So don't be worried about it. Always carry on with it. Don't just do a small area and then think, oh, that doesn't look good, I need to change the whole thing. Do more of an area, if you can, the whole piece, and then judge from there. As I've always said, worst case scenario, you just strip the paint and start again. It's not that bad. It's not like these things, once we've painted them, we can't change anything and we have to throw them away or whatnot. But I'm just going in, picking out the finer details and the raised points of the actual miniature where the light would catch it. Now the front is going to get more highlight because obviously that's the focal point, but you'll see later on, especially on the back shoulders and the folds in the jacket on the back as well, you'll really see there's a difference there, and just picking them out, and it does make it pop a bit more. Now this is the same highlight pass as mentioned previous, it's just a bit further on in the miniature, and you can see I'm really taking my time picking out those details. And in future steps as you're watching, you'll see on the purple especially, it really does start to show the different layers in purple, and the darker layer is still present on where the light's not catching it as much, so it just makes it pop a bit more. And you can see, just take your time with it. If you need to add another highlight layer, go and do it. You don't have to stick with this. Keep experimenting and just keep going on and on and on. Right, so at this point I've added a little bit of magenta into the purple for the most extreme highlights, and you'll see now I'm being very selective where I'm picking, and hopefully on the wherever you're watching this, you should be able to notice the subtle differences in the shades of purple as well. And this magenta now, I'm picking out the trim on the collar and the front of the jacket, and then I'll be picking it, watering it down a bit more and just picking out the highest raised areas, so like the shoulders, just the slight front of the jacket itself, on the lapels, and on the back there's a few cool creases as well. And just take your time, pick out these points. You can see I'm not going all the way down the actual threading there on the jacket, just picking out the bits that are bumping out slightly more because of the physique that's underneath there. And just take your time with it, and again, have fun. That's always the core mantra of this channel, is have fun with your painting and try new things. And what I've done here is just picked out this particular bit of footage and zoomed right in, so you can see where I'm just feathering on this magenta mixed in with the purple, and you can see there the different variations in the purples across his jacket from the shoulders in particular, and that front part of the collar that's catching the most light, and all the way down to the front of the jacket. And this is basically what we're doing when we're highlighting. We basically want to build up volumes of light, and that shows a bit of variation, a bit of detail. What you can do as well with something like this, you'll see more on the collar, there's some different variations in the height of the strokes I've used from the paintbrush, and that's just to give it a bit more visual sort of interest, because this is all just flat material, so you can then go in and add your own little bits of detail if you want there as well, bits of wear and tear or whatnot. But you can see I'm just picking out those areas with a bit of the magenta just to build up those volumes, and it makes it pop, and it's a lot better than just a purple jacket, and then even if you wanted to after that just a wash, it just adds a lot more interest and a bit more fun. Right, so at this point I'm going to move on to the other colours. Now I've done the exact same process. You can see there on the palette in the top corner, so I've still got that olive brown, and I have mixed a tiny amount of that in with the yellow to get that first base coat. So this will do several things. So one, it's going to actually help the yellow cover better, because as we all know, yellow's a notoriously horrible colour to actually paint with, because of basically it's the amount of pigment that's actually in there. And when I build up to the bright level at its highest, you're still going to get this almost like this mustardy colour that it's coming out as at the moment, as the lowest points of light. So again, it'll add a nice bit of variation. And on this shirt in particular, there's lots of little wrinkles and things, and really cool little bits of detail you can pick out and get those highlights to really shine. And so at this point I did a bit more yellow in, and I'm starting to build up those highlights. So picking out key areas on the shirt, all the folds and things, and then where the actual creases are next to the buttons, where the shirt's clearly stretched across his chest a little bit, that's when it'll get a bit more of the yellow. So I am leaving just the smallest amount of that original yellow and olive brown mix, and that's around sort of the deepest recesses of the waistcoat and next to the actual purple jacket. Everywhere else is going to get this all over, and because I've done that initial coat, the opacity of the yellow builds up a lot better, so you don't get that patchy sort of effect that can sometimes happen when you're painting a brighter colour on a darker surface. Right, so same as the purple, this is now more of the yellow in, and also just a bit of a tip. You can see there when I'm putting my brush into the paint, I'm twisting it just to keep the nib nice and sharp for when I'm painting. And now I'm just going to go in now and just pick out very specific areas and make the brightest highlight really pop. Right, now sometimes, so at the moment I've completed the yellow there, but I'm not sure if I need to push that highlight a bit more. So what I'll sometimes do when I'm painting is, if there's an area next to it that hasn't been painted yet, I'll work on that first and see if that the previous colour's highlight needs to be pushed a bit more. So in this bit, because I know the purple I'm happy with, the yellow might need a bit more contrast and a bit more light volume put in. So what I'm going to do now is paint the green sort of waistcoat, get that highlighted in the exact same way, push that as far as I want to go, and then if I feel like the yellow does need a little bit more, I'll then go in and add back onto that. It's just something I've always done. I sometimes struggle to notice colour values and things when I'm looking at a miniature, and I'll jump from colour to colour, and you'll notice in some of my videos where there's bits painted that I've not spoke about, and it's just so I can get a better eye for what I need to do with the contrast when all the colours come together. And this is another good example of that. So you'll see now I've actually done the hair as well in the green, because I wanted to make sure that there's a bit more variation with the highlights. I don't want to just copy and paste the steps on both of those. I want them to be slightly different, same with the bow tie as well. But yeah, so going back to the green, exactly like I've done with the purple and the yellow, I mixed a bit of the olive brown in as an initial base coat, and then I'm building up the green. I'm just adding more and more of that green in just to build up those highlights and picking out key areas. Now the bow tie, because of his face and where his chin is, I'm not doing as many highlights on this as I normally would compared to the waistcoat, and the hair is going to be slightly different as we'll see later on, but initially has just had that green and olive brown base coat. But the waistcoat itself now, so I've added more green, and I'm going in and I'm just picking out details, all those nice little folds and things, just give the miniature a bit more character. And you can see here I'm just picking out those folds and things, leaving that initial dark green on the under parts, and it just makes it pop. Just taking my time, being very deliberate and delicate with this. And again, if you make a mistake, you've still got the previous colour on your palette there. Go back and change it if you need to. So when it comes to the hair, because I don't want every individual thing highlighted like the shirt and the bow tie, I'm going through and I'm just picking out key areas with the lighter green, just using the side of my brush so it's nice and flat and it's easier to control. So it's mainly the big tufts on the side of his head, the bit right at the front above his brow, and those big tufts that are sticking out at the back. They're going to get the most highlight. I want it to just show, basically highlight and show a bit different to the green on the shirt, a bit more haphazard and a bit more random, because this is his hair. And then when we get to the varnishing bit, this will all look a bit different as well. But just picking out those tips. Don't mind if I'm a bit rough with this, because it'll all blend in nicely. And just going through and picking everything out, all the little highlights and the little edges and things. And you can see there the hair's starting to pop a bit more and the tips are really, really bright. Now, when it comes to the face, I was in two minds. Do I do a skin colour and then the white paint on top, or do I just do white? And I ended up just sticking with the white. Now, to paint this, because if you look at your white, that's obviously going to be your brightest highlights. There's not actually going to be a lot of that on the paint job itself. So I've started off with this grey, light grey, put that on, and then I'm adding a little bit more of the white in, building up a highlight, and then going in again and 3 or 4 layers, like we've done with the jacket, the shirt and the tunic and the hair and things. And it's the exact same process, and a lot of this is just patience. Take your time. If you mess it up, go back with the original colour if you need to, and on the base colour, and just paint over everything again, and just take your time with it. Now what I'll do with this footage, I'm just going to let this run a bit more so you can see I'm being very deliberate in where I'm putting the highlights, but it is the same process as we've done before throughout the video. and it's just a case of following these steps and building up those layers. Now it comes to the final piece. There's a couple of obviously little bits of detail here on the miniature that I've not done in part of the video. That's, you know, that's deliberate. It's because it's following the same processes. It's just alternating the button colours. Luckily the sculptor did have a really nice layer where the lips are, so I didn't have to paint those on. So I just followed the lines with that, with a bit of red. And then the teeth, I just gave them a bit of white and then a light brown wash just to yellow them a bit. And they've come out nice. And that's the final thing. I really enjoy painting busts. I think they can, you know, level up your painting quite a lot if you stick with them. Yes, they're a bit more difficult because you've got less places to hide, and if you make a mistake it's way more apparent, but I do strongly recommend that people try busts. But yeah, this has been a load of fun. I've had, you know, had a good bit of practice with this. I haven't done a bust for a while because the Mortal Kombat one was recorded a few weeks ago that you might have seen. But yeah, really enjoyed this. We've got some more stuff coming up in the future, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and tune in for that. And yeah, cheers everyone, see you in the next one.